Ko te ruamanga te maunga, ko Pasifika te moana, ko tūpapa te awa, ko takatimu te waka, ko raratanga te whenua, ko awatu te iwi, ko te Tinjasika I Takumahi, ko Stanley Henry, tōku ingoa. Tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Kia ora everyone. My name's Stanley Henry. So I'm the founder of a company called The Attention Seeker. We're a creative agency that started less than 6 years ago with nothing but one of these, a phone and a story. Today, we work with clients across 4 continents, from Aotearoa to New York, from London to Sydney. Building brands that actually get noticed. That's our thing. We're a team of almost 40, and one of, if not, the fastest growing agency in New Zealand right now. But that's not the story that I want to tell you today. I want to tell you about a young man called Lee, who's sitting right here in the front. So I met Lee at one of our group interviews. He was smart, he was calm, understated. You know that when someone walks in a room and they don't really need to say a whole lot, but they still change the energy. That's it. But in the end, at the interview process, someone else got the role. They just edged him out. And then a few months later, I walked into the Kingslander for a beer, and who's behind the bar? Lee. I said, "Hey, didn't you want to work in the creative industry? Didn't you go to school and study for this stuff?" And he said, "Yeah, I did, but I got rejected. I just assumed I wasn't good enough." And that moment stuck with me. Because there's this talented young man, this young Pasifika kid, who thought one no almost meant it was over. So I told him, "Bro, you weren't bad. There was just one person slightly ahead of you on that day, but we've got new roles now. You should apply again." And obviously he did, and obviously this time we gave him the job. And now today, Lee is one of the leaders in our team. A trusted creative, a steady presence, and someone who shapes how we work, how we treat each other, and most importantly, how we grow. Now, why does that story matter? Because that moment with Lee isn't rare. It's happening everywhere. Talented Pasifika youth are being overlooked. Not because they're not ready, but just because our systems aren't necessarily set up, or are set up, I should say, for what to see one kind of potential. And Lee didn't need saving. He didn't need me to come in and save him. He needed someone just to circle back, just to say, "You're still in the game." There's this idea that diversity is about inclusion, about optics, about doing the right thing. But here's the truth for me. Diversity, especially cultural diversity, it's just a business advantage. That's all it is. Our Pasifika cultures are rooted in rhythm, right? We're in connection, and stories passed down face to face. And that's not fluff. That's strategy, especially in the creative industries like ours, where your ability to tell a story that lands is everything. So Lee doesn't walk into a room thinking, "Wait, how can I stand out here?" He doesn't walk in a room thinking, "How do I show up as being the best?" Instead, he walks in thinking, "How can I lift the whole room up?" He thinks, "How can I make this project easier for my team? What does the client really need? How do we protect the vibe so everyone does their best work?" That mindset, that's gold in a creative team. You see, in Pasifika culture, the collective comes first. We move with our families in mind. our communities, our ancestors. And there's a weight to that, but also a beauty. Compare that to a lot of the Pālangi creators that work in our team, who often have an individual first lens. And look, as I stand here, you can tell I'm very much half Pālangi, so I'm no different. It's not wrong. It's not wrong at all how they think. It's just different. They're driven, they're competitive, they want their idea to win. But when your whole business is based on collaboration, when every project is subjective, emotional, messy, you need people who bring the collective energy. And that's what Lee brings. Not just creativity, but harmony. And not just output. Sorry, online team, if you can't hear me, dropping down. Not just output, but care. And here's something else I've learned. Innovation never comes from the middle. It always comes from these edges, from people like Lee. People who were told no, but they still came back. People who weren't groomed for leadership, but became leaders anyway. And from people like Tyler. Tyler, a young Samoan woman who works for us, was fresh out of study when she came into our group interview a few years ago. There were 30 other candidates, much louder ones, sharper ones on paper. She barely spoke. 30 people in a room, all vying for one job. And honestly, she almost faded into the background. But we asked one question to everyone. That question was, who is your favorite person? And she replied, my grandmother. She's my best friend. And that was it. One sentence, but it told me everything I needed to know. It told me she values connection, that she puts family first, not just because it sounds good, but because it was just real. It told me that she's loyal, collective, and grounded. She didn't tick the traditional boxes by any means. We hired her as a videographer. She didn't know how to turn my camera on. But she didn't pitch herself as a future leader. But I saw it. We saw it. So I gave her the job. And today, Tyler is an instrumental part of our team. She doesn't lead with volume. She leads with presence. With calm, with heart, and with culture. And so I've spent a lot of time thinking about what leadership really is, because I wasn't always a leader. When I was 21, I was working as a waiter at the Holiday Inn in Gold Coast. I had no plan, I had no vision, no idea what I was doing with my life. And honestly, I was drifting. Becoming just another South Auckland statistic with no pathway and no future. And then one day, a man named Vickers Maholcha, my manager at the time, sat me down. This is dropping so fast, isn't it? I'm sorry for anyone Māori cut in. He said, what are you here for? Do you want more than this? And I was confused. I was like, more than what? I don't even understand the question. I don't even know what you're trying to ask me right now. I'm too busy partying on the weekend in Gold Coast. But he didn't back down. He said, Stanley, you're smart. You work hard. The team listens to you. They follow your lead. Have you ever thought about making this your career? And that was my slight endorsement. No titles, no promotions, just someone who saw something in me and called it out. I obviously said yes. I jumped at the chance. He said there was a pay rise somewhere in there, so that helped. And over the next decade, I climbed 10 jobs, 10 years, every single one, because someone believed in me before I believed in myself. Vickers didn't just give me a job, he gave me a permission to lead. And I've molded my leadership on that ever since. That's why I didn't promote Lee into a leadership role. He just became one, the same way I did. Through action, through energy, through consistency. He's not the loudest. Sometimes he is, not always. He's not the loudest. He's not chasing a title. He's just the guy that new team members go to when they're curious. The guy who stays calm when things get stressful. The guy who leads with mana, not ego. That's Pacific leadership. Service over status, calm over chaos, and harmony over hierarchy. And when we let that kind of leadership rise, not just recognize it, but lift it up, the whole team will follow. Because we're not creating stars, we're building collective strength. And the thing is, that same mindset that makes us strong leaders, it also makes us exceptional storytellers. Here's something I've learned in the creative world. Good marketing is just good storytelling. And good storytelling is about making your audience the hero, not you. Most businesses get that wrong. They put themselves at the center and their stories fall flat. But you know who gets it instinctively? Pacifica people. We're raised to think about our families, our villages, our teams. We grow up understanding that our success, it means nothing if we leave others behind. So when we tell stories, we shine the light outward. We naturally center others. And that slight difference in storytelling, it makes a massive difference when you're trying to create content that actually cuts through. It's why our creators like Lee, like Tyler, consistently deliver work that connects, not just visually, but emotionally. Because they're not trying to be the hero. They're trying to make the audience feel seen. Now, I want you to imagine a different kind of Aotearoa. An Aotearoa where we don't see brown faces in the work just to tick a box. We see them in leadership because they earned it. The stories that we tell are real, and people actually want to watch them. That workplaces are built for people, not just productivity. And the goal isn't individual brilliance. It's a rising tide that lifts everyone. That's what happens when we center on these Pacifica values. We stop chasing this hustle culture and we start building these cultures of care. We stop obsessing over who's the best. We start asking, how can we win together? Because when you build from collective strength, you don't just get better culture, you actually just get better outcomes, better business outcomes. So if you're sitting here wondering how to start, here's how. Revisit the almost, the ones you nearly hired, the ones still pulling bears. Hire for character. You can teach all the skills. You can't teach values. Back them early. Say yes to someone before they think they're ready. Mentor with real intent, not advice, but instead opportunity. And let culture lead. Don't just include Pacifica culture in your team, let it shape your team. And above all, just back people before they prove themselves. Because someone backed me, I got to back Lee, and I backed Tyler. And now, these are the guys backing others. Lee wasn't a fluke either. He was just what happens when someone with power, someone like me, takes a moment to say, you're still in the game. There are more Lees, more Tylers, and hopefully not too many more Stanleys. You'll see. Pouring beers, waiting tables, working retail. Wondering if this is it. Wondering if they are enough. Wondering if they will ever get their shot. Now, I want to make this clear. They don't need saving. They just need someone to open a door and let them through. To say, I see you, I believe in where you're going, and most importantly, to say, you are enough. When we do that, we don't just build better businesses, we build better futures. Thank you.